I'm really happy to be here. I'm really happy to be in community with all of you. If you are joining me if you're joining me live, go ahead and just drop a little hello in the comments. We are really in the midst of some very beautiful and also very, quite frankly, intense energies. So if you are new to my world, I am Andrea Donnelly. I am a quantum sound and energy healer and a cosmic wealth activator. I am a multidimensional channel. I have channeled light language and talked to my guides since I was a baby. And so I now use all of my psychic gifts and spiritual acumen and connection to the divine to be able to really help you and everyone who comes into my world and finds me to be able to anchor into some really powerful levels of inner peace, self-trust, a really powerful level of inner love. And when you do that, it changes your life. And I see it over and over again. I've seen my own life change radically in the past few years. And I have seen my clients just absolutely transform and have their personal and professional lives shift in such enormous ways where people end up working with me and then they are making more money, they are living a life that is better than anything that they could have ever imagined. And things really start to change when you show up and you do this work. So I am deeply honored to hold this space. I love doing my channeled forecasts. The last one I did was at the end of May, so it felt like the perfect time to jump in here with one now. And the energy of May is really about the idea of becoming an embodied alchemist. So embodiment, from my perspective, is we hear people talk about embodiment all the time, right? But like, what does that mean, really? And to me, what embodiment is taking the theoretical knowledge, ideas, the ways that you've grown from a spiritual and intellectual perspective, the things you've learned, taking all of that and actually learning how to live and navigate your life from that sense of wisdom, right? Taking knowledge and really having it anchor into your physical body so that as you move through your 3D life, as you show up in your interpersonal life, in your relationships, in your business, if you have one, whatever it is that you do, whether it's working for yourself or someone else, whether you, wherever you are in the world, the sense of embodiment to me is really about using all of the knowledge that you have and essentially synthesizing it into action. And then the idea of alchemy, right? We hear also alchemy as a word that's like thrown around, but like, what does alchemy really mean? There's the sort of wizardry sense of alchemy, right? Where you take one thing and you use your magical powers, your gifts to transmute one substance into another, right? We hear a lot about like the alchemy of like gold and that sort of thing. And the way that I perceive that sense of alchemy is, yes, it can be like literally about, a sense of physical magic and like creation. And there's another level to it, which is about alchemizing. So essentially this is something I've said for a long time, that this idea of basically that your pain is your gold, right? Leaning very deeply into the experiences that you've had in this and other lifetimes, whether they were beautiful or hard as fuck or whatever, wherever they fell on the spectrum, but being aware of the fact that everything truly moves with and for you at the end of the day. even the messiest mess, right? And I can say this with a fairly large amount of embodied wisdom when I say that the dumpster fire from whence I came was really dramatic, and the turning point for me, right? The thing that really changed things, the things that healed my money story, that healed my physical body because I was disabled by chronic nerve pain a couple of years ago, was really leaning into not just my trauma from this and other lifetimes, but all of that ancestral trauma, right? Because this planet is not easy. And from an epigenetic perspective, we are linked to the pain and the hardship that our ancestors have experienced. The thing is now, right? If you were here with me, if you were listening to this on the live, then you are someone who really is being called. We are all being called to do this, but it's profound. If you're here with me, then you are really being called to do this, not just for yourself, but for your entire lineage, for your community, for the planet, because the more that each of us can do that inner work, the more that we can take the experiences that we've had, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it, and we can say, all right, I trust you, God. I trust that there were reasons that X, Y, and Z happened, and I forgive myself. I forgive everyone around me. I am committed to taking that like pile of mucky garbage, potentially, and literally alchemizing it and turning it into gold, turning it into fuel, turning it into authority and power. Right? One of the things that I am able to do for people around the world now that my business has expanded so much in the past couple of years is I can look people in the eye and I can say to you, you know, obviously there are things I have not experienced this time around, but I've experienced a lot of stuff in this one life. I've experienced financial highs and lows, you know, tons of grief, a lot of complexity. I've been in multiple car accidents. I've had, you know, family take my resources. Like there's a lot of things that I have lived through. And I can say with absolute certainty that if I can heal my body, if I can heal my bank account, if I can heal my life, which is something that I was shown from the time I was a little kid by my guides in my prayer and meditation practice and in the communication that I had with them from the time I was born. If I can take all of the adversity and the hardship that I've lived through and come out the other side of it, then it may be diluted. I may be fucking ridiculous. I'm willing to sit in that energy. Like I know that not everybody will understand what it is that I'm talking about, but if you're here and you found me, then you are being called to do that same thing. And I can say with absolute certainty, because of where I know I have been, that anything is possible. Anything is possible. When I started this business, so we're in May right now of 2023. When I started my business, the first time I ever charged people for my services, now I had been doing healing work for a long time, just as like trade with friends and things. But the first time I ever charged people for my work was in the fall of 2020. And I had been being shown for decades that I was going to someday start my own business and really use my gifts, my healing capacity to change things for people all over the world. And to be able to like actually live this experience now, where I see how much the things that I do help people. I always believed in something bigger. I've always believed in magic, but to be able to be at a point now where we are as a collective and see how fast and powerful the potential for change is, it's amazing. It's so beautiful. I'm so just like deeply honored to be here in this energy with all of you. So that's the little like sort of overview of, at least from my perspective, what the words embodiment and alchemy mean. And as I mentioned, I think that this is a really, we're really being called in some really, really powerful and big ways to go even deeper into our own journey. I mention often that idea of how everyone is, carrying around in some capacity an energetic baggage, right? A bag of rocks is the language that I put to it. And as we move through this year, a lot of you have been reaching out to me behind the scenes. I'm hearing my clients say this over and over again. I actually talked about it on a roundtable that I did at the end of this past year on 2023 predictions with a bunch of other really remarkable clear channels. And we all were being shown something very similar, which is that we are really in this like powerful next level phase of the Great Awakening. You want it, you can call it the transition into the new earth, you can call it 3D to 5D, you can call it the golden age, whatever words you put to it, right? We know that we're moving through a really powerful window of global transformation. And part of that is that the energies for this year, in terms of how fast we are able to create things, is like nothing that we have ever experienced on Earth. It's just, so a lot of you may, and drop a note here in the chat if you are with me live and you're seeing that like sense of instant manifestation, instant karma, just like, whoa, I thought something and boom, here it is in my field, right? That power is just going to continue to amplify over this year and all time as we move forward. But the thing about it is that in order to create or manifest or articulate your dreams in a way that really works within for you, it is really important to be showing up and making sure that you are doing the inner work, because when your field from a frequency perspective is cluttered by misalignments, by codependencies, by ways that maybe you haven't been acknowledging your truth or keeping yourself small, the unhealed, very reasonable wounding that we have from, this lifetime, from other lifetimes, all of the things that are very complicated. Even if you had a perfect life, which is not a real thing on this planet, right? No matter how perfect your life is, in quotes, there's always, we suffer loss and grief. Being a human is a very intense thing. And the lighter, quote unquote, you can be, it doesn't mean that you spiritually bypass or you deny the parts of you that are complicated and messy and hard. It's not about that. What it's about is really looking those things in the eye and saying, I forgive you, old version of me who did something that I would never do now. I forgive you, family of origin who maybe couldn't show up in the way that would have been really desirable for me as a child. I forgive you, ancestral lineage who slogged through a lot of very painful stuff and maybe didn't know how to, again, like show up for, the me as a child or the me of today in a way that would be ideal. And also, I'm ready to feel those feelings, face that, and then move on to something new and better, right? So that's where that sense of alchemy comes into play, of really taking the things that you've lived through and saying, God, divinity, source, spirit, I am ready for more. I want to heal. I want to go deep into my own experience, and I want to, essentially adjust my frequency so that I am able to move like a tree in the wind, essentially, right? That no matter what is happening externally, from a cultural perspective, from a planetary perspective, from a political perspective, that I am like a tree in the wind. Doesn't mean that my life is going to be perfect, but it does mean that I am committed to essentially being, right? I talk about that Gandhi quote often, being the change you want to see in the world. That's what we're really moving through right now. And that power that we all have to create is, as I mentioned, really ramping up. And so it's also really important to get hyper freaking clear about what you want your life to look like, right? How do you want to live? Where do you want to live? Where do you want to be in the world? What kind of work are you really being called to do? There has been a massive call to action since 2020, where we have all been really, right? 2020 was about going inward. So literally, like we we were often like trapped in our houses in a lot of ways. And so it was time to really go deep and start to reflect. And 2021 and 2022 were, from my perspective, from an energetic perspective, sort of looking at the overall like meta lesson of what we all moved through in the past couple of years. If 2020 was about going inward and starting to really clear about like the truth of who you were, 2021 and 2022 were about then saying, all right, that's who I really am. Those are the the X, Y, and Z are the things that I have been doing where I've been playing small or minimizing my truth, or, not speaking up about whatever the thing is, to make other people feel more comfortable, or to essentially blend into society, right? We were essentially called to say, all right, here is how I am, a round peg trying to fit into the square, board of society. And what if I just make it okay to be truly who I am? Right. But that's also a real journey, right? It requires a lot of shifting in terms of how you show up in the world, how you make yourself available. And it's a delicate dance. I wrote an article a few weeks ago that I'll share in the comments here, because it's related to what I'm talking about today. And it was all about essentially owning your authentic truth, and how the journey of authenticity is also it's a vulnerable act of enormous courage on a planet where all of the systems at play, and they're changing. It's not going to be like this forever, but the narrative, the overall narrative coming from every system that is currently in existence on this planet is that, essentially for the greater good, that there are all of these things that each of us needs to do to essentially smudge our own light so that we don't take up too much space, so that we're not as embodied in our inner wisdom, and that we are essentially told to, zip it up, stay quiet, stay small, fall in line, and do the things that everybody else has always done. And we're moving into a really new way of living with each other, with the earth. The big call from, the planet herself is not available for the level of violence, pain, and chaos that she very graciously, allowed humans and the structures that exist on this planet a long time to self-correct. And she is not available for this level of chaos anymore. And so that's what we're really seeing, is that we're all really being called to clean up our messes from an energetic and a physical perspective, and get crystal freaking clear on how we want to live. It doesn't mean it needs to be perfect. It doesn't mean that you need to have all the answers, but the more you can clear all of that energetic baggage, and you can start to sit with yourself and say, all right, these are the things that I really love, that I have been hearing. Guys, I love to talk about the, listening to, respecting your intuition, the whispers of your own heart. But I feel like that's really the big thing that my work does, is it emboldens you to be able to clear the, frequency misalignments that make it hard for you to be able to hear and trust your inner intuition. Because when you have all of that energetic baggage, when you have unhealed trauma, when you have wounding, when you have things that have happened that you have not ever like fully healed from or faced, literally makes it hard to hear and trust and move as an embodied alchemist, even if you've been getting, the same nudge for 10 years about something that you are meant to do professionally or interpersonally, or, like it makes it, it's not that you're not getting guidance from your team. We all have really robust, powerful teams of spirit that are move within for us always. But when you have things that you're not facing, when you are not really allowing your own wisdom to be the point from which you navigate your life, it makes it really hard to trust all of the rich divine guidance that each of us is blessed with. And from my perspective, I say it often, but I'm being guided to share it again, that idea that, your spiritual gifts, your magic, your inner wisdom is the greatest currency that any of us possesses right now. So May, all about showing up in an even bigger way, really being aware of how quickly we have the capacity to create right now, and why it is so important to really, really clean up your energetic boundaries and really start to listen to your own wisdom. There's no one outside of you. There's no system. There is no religious leader or guru or politician or family member who knows better than your own heart. And that goes against everything that we've been taught. But it's really time now to embody your own inner wisdom in an even bigger way than you ever have before. So if you want support with that journey, the Embodied Alchemist starts on the 12th, which is next Friday. It runs for 5 weeks. It's an amazing group of people. I'm super excited. It's going to be 5 live calls. 3 of them are going to be attunements and activations, and 2 of them are going to be Q&A and like live coaching calls. So it's May 12th through June 9th. And if you are interested in jumping into this, like I said, the group is really amazing. It's going to be super fun. All the calls will be recorded. So if you can't be on them live, that is no problem. There'll be a replay, and there's also going to be a Facebook group so that we can, get to know each other and be in community in a really beautiful way. So just think about that. There's also room for a few more people in Gold Standard, which is a 6-month journey. And I have 2 spaces available right now for 6 to 12-month private mentorship. So if you are interested in any of those things, go ahead and reach out to me. I'll go ahead and make sure that the link is popped into the comments here. And from my own perspective, I also just want to say, April was such an amazing, awesome month. I've been having just like so much awesome stuff unfold in my personal and professional life, and things are really like coming together in an even more powerful, beautiful way. And I think it was the first or the second week in April, my calendar was booked through the middle of May. So if you have been feeling like you want to jump into my world and do anything with me, whether it's a single session or jumping into one of my groups, I would say to really, like, the time is now. I sent something out to my newsletter a couple of days ago where my guides were mentioning to me to share something that happened a few years ago, which was on a call with a very powerful Pleiadian channel. She was doing an astrology reading, and she was doing a reading for me. And the Pleiadian energy that she channels told me, because it was actually before I started my business, but I asked them, sort of how they perceived my mission and purpose, right? And they said that I had come here to help many, not few. And then about a year and a half ago, they came to me in a meditation and they said, we want you to change those words that we shared with you from, you came here to help many, not few, to, I came here to help many and do. And they were like, use that as a mantra, essentially, to create, the space of this like powerful mission that I came here to really help you and so many people around the world. But things are starting to change. The way that people work with me is going to shift as I move through through this year. So it's no pressure. Like if you just are here to, lean into the vibe for these, that's totally cool. But if you were feeling that urge, if you have ever thought, oh, I really want to work with Andrea, things are going to be shifting, right? As the space that I hold for people expands, the intimacy that I am able to bring to a lot of the ways that I work is, it reasonably shifts as my audience increases. So I'm just saying, if you're feeling the call, let's do this, because there is literally no better time than now. And there is no better investment from my perspective that is more powerful, more fruitful, or yields a better return on one's investment than going deep on yourself, whether you're being called to have me support you, whether you're being called to learn how to tap dance or paint or whatever the thing is. It is time to listen to those whispers of your own heart. So on that note, my sweet, beautiful friend, I love you. I am sending blessings and love from my heart to yours, to the land that you live on, to your neighbors, your family, and your friends. And I will see you for my next energy forecast. Bye-bye.